Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. Today, our group will present about floods in Malaysia. This is our group members. Firstly, the introduction. Floods are a common natural disaster that happen when water overflows onto land that is usually dry. In Malaysia, flooding occurs frequently, especially during the monsoon seasons. This is mainly caused by heavy rainfall, poor drainage systems, and deforestation, which reduce the land's ability to absorb water. As a result, floods have serious impact on communities, damaging homes, disrupting daily life, destroying infrastructure, and affecting the country's economy. My name is Putri Zafiz Zahra Rizwin binti Iskandar Jaya and my matrix number is F1111. I am the presenter 1. Diagram 1 shows the bar graph of flood evacuees in Kelantan by district. This bar graph shows the number of flood evacuees in several districts in Kelantan during late November 2025. The variables in this graph are the districts in Kelantan and the number of flood victims recorded in each district. Tumpat recorded the highest number of evacuees with 3,200 people, while the others category recorded the lowest number with only 348 evacuees. Based on the comparison, Tumpat has the highest number of evacuees compared to all other districts. Bachok recorded more evacuees than Kota Baru and Pasir Putih. In contrast, the others category had a significantly lower number of evacuees compared to the rest. In conclusion, Tumpat was the most affected district, while the number of evacuees gradually decreased across the other districts. Next, diagram 2 shows the pie chart of distribution of flood losses in Kelantan. This pie chart illustrates the distribution of flood losses in Kelantan in 2025, with a total loss of 263 million ringgit. The variables shown in this chart are the different types of flood losses, including living quarters, business premise, vehicles, manufacturing, and others. Living quarters recorded the highest percentage of losses at 52.9%, while manufacturing recorded the lowest percentage at only 0.4%. From the chart, living quarters contributed more than half of the total losses. The others category was the second highest, followed by business premise. Meanwhile, vehicles and manufacturing contributed only a very small percentage compared to the other categories. In conclusion, flood losses in Kelantan were mainly dominated by damage to living quarters, while the other sectors contributed much smaller proportions.
Hi, I am the second presenter. My name is Nur Farahani binti Muhammad Isham, and my matric number is 17DSK24F1108, and I will present about my bar chart and line chart. This is the data that I obtained from the internet about victim flood in Terengganu by district for the year 2025. The bar graph shows the number of flood victims in different districts in Terengganu in 2025. From the graph, it can be clearly seen that the number of flood victims varies across the district. Kemudian recorded the highest number of flood victims, while Terengganu recorded the lowest. In addition, Mara recorded the second highest number of flood victims in 2025. This comparison shows that some districts are more affected than others. This is also an upward movement in data, where the number of flood victims increased over time. In conclusion, Kemudian is the most affected district by flood in 2025. Overall, flood in Terengganu are strongly influenced by the monsoon season. This is the data that I obtained from the internet about flood victim in Terengganu by month in 2025. The line chart shows the number of flood victims in Terengganu in 2025. From this chart, we can observe the trend of flood cases over time. This is an upward movement in the data, where the number of flood victims increased toward a certain period. November recorded the highest number of flood victims, while September showed no record at all. Looking at the details, November had the highest number of cases in 2025. In contrast, there were no flood victims recorded in September. After reaching the peak in November, the number of flood victims decreased in December. This pattern clearly shows how flood cases change over time, especially during the monsoon season. In conclusion, the number of flood victims in Terengganu increased during the monsoon season, with the highest number of recorded in November.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Barina Alisha and I will continue with the bar graph of Perak. Bar graph shows the number of flood victims across 6 districts in Perak in 2025 with a total of about 5,500 people affected. The data clearly indicates that the number of victims varies significantly between districts, with Manjung recording the highest number, while Mualim has the lowest. This suggests that certain areas are more vulnerable to flooding, possibility due to factors such as location, population density or infrastructure. In addition, districts like Perak Tengah and Hilir Perak fall within a moderate range, showing that the impact is present but less severe compared to Manjung. Bagan data also records a lower number of victims, but still contributes to the overall total. Overall, the uneven distribution highlights that flood impact is not consistent across districts, and such as the need for better flood management in more affected areas. From the graph, the number of victims clearly varies based on district. Manjung recorded the highest number of victims, while Mualim recorded the lowest. This difference may be due to factors such as population density, location, or drainage system in these areas. When we compare the districts, Manjung has the highest number of victims, whereas Mualim has the lowest. Perak Tengah has slightly more victims than Hilir Perak, which shows a moderate level of impact. Bagan data also recorded fewer victims compared to Manjung, but still contributes to all overall total. This comparison shows that flooding does not affect all districts equally. In conclusion, the flood impact across districts is uneven, with certain areas like Manjung being more severely affected. This suggests that some districts may need better flood management and prevention strategies. Next is the pie chart. The pie chart illustrates the percentage of different impact caused by flood in Perak in 2025. The most significant impact is property damage at 32%, indicating that the flood mainly affected by physical structures such as houses and infrastructure. In contrast, environmental impact is the lowest at 4%, suggesting that it is less immediate or less visible compared to other types of impact. Furthermore, displacement accounts for 24%, showing that a large number of people were forced to leave their homes, which disrupt daily lives. Other impacts contribute smaller portions, but together they highlight the overall consequences of flooding. Overall, the chart shows that flood mainly affect human living conditions and property, emphasizing the importance of preparedness and protection measures. From the chart, property damage is the highest impact at 32%, while environmental impact is lowest at 4%. This indicates that flood mainly cause damage to homes, buildings, and infrastructure rather than the environment. Property damage is the highest compared to all categories, showing it is the most serious issue. Displacement at 24% means many people were forced to leave their homes temporarily. Environmental impact is the lowest, which suggests it is less visible or less immediate compared to other impacts. This shows that flood mostly affect people's living condition and property. In conclusion, the main impact of floods in Perak is property damage, followed by displacement. This highlights the need for better housing protection and emergency planning.
Next, I am Anif Shafrina. My number matrix is 17 TSK 24F1102. I will present a bar graph about the numbers of flood victims by district in Pahang. This is the example of the bar graph. that victims that affected of flood in Pahang in 2025. The total number of flood victims recorded is 30,481 people. Based on the graph, Kuantan has the highest number of victims with 4,500 people. This is followed by Pekan with 3,200 victims, and Maran with 2,100 and Temerloh with 1,500. Meanwhile, Toronto recorded the lowest number with only 981 victims. In terms of comparison, Kuantan has significantly more flood victims than Temerloh and Rompin. Pekan recorded a higher number than Maran but still lower than Kuantan. On the other hand, Toronto had the least numbers of victims, far below the other districts. In conclusion, for this bar graph in Pahang, flood affected many districts in Pahang, with Kuantan being the most severely impacted. Overall, the data shows that the impact of flood varies greatly across districts. Then, we go to the pie chart of impact of flood in Pahang. This is the example of pie chart that affect in many categories in Pahang. This is the data analysis based on a pie chart that shows the different impact of flood in Pahang. First, let us look at the biggest impact shown in the chart. The largest portion, which is 35%, is damage to properties and infrastructure. This means floods cause serious destruction to house, building, and others. When floods happen, many homes are damaged and destroyed. This shows that physical damage is the most serious problem during floods. The second largest impact is displacement of people, which makes up 25%. This means many families are forced to leave their homes and move to the temporary shelter. Being displaced is very stressful because people lose comfort, privacy, and sometimes even their belongings. This clearly shows that floods greatly affect people's daily life. Next, we have economic loss, which account for 20%. Flood interrupt business and transportation. Shops may need to close, crops can be destroyed, and workers may not be able to go to work. This causes loss of income for families and affect the overall economy. Even after the floods end, recovery can take a long time and cost a lot of money. The last two impacts are environmental impact and health issue, both at 10%, making them the smallest category at the chart. Even though they are the lowest percentage, they are still very important. Flood can pollute rivers, damage habitat, and leave behind large amounts of waste. At the same time, health problems can occur such as waterborne disease, infection, and others. So, this impact may be smaller in percentage, but they still have a long-term effect on society. From this chart, we can clearly compare the impact. Damage to property and infrastructure is the highest, followed by displacement of people, then economic loss. Environmental and health impact are the lowest but still significant. In conclusion, flood in Pahang mainly cause damage to building and infrastructure and force many people to leave their homes. At the same time, flood also lead to financial loss, environmental damage, and health problems. This shows why flood prevention, preparation, and awareness are very important to reduce the effect in the future. That's all from me. I will pass to the next person.
Nice, I'm a presenter 5. Firstly, I will introduce myself. My name is Nadawisha Betty Muhammad Khairi. My nomenclature is 70 TSK 24F1044. Nice, I will explain about the bar graph. So firstly, this bar graph presents the number of flood victims across the 5 districts in Johor. So, Johor Bahru records the highest number with approximately 5,000 victims, making it the most severe affected area. This is followed by Kota Tinggi with around 3,000 victims and Kluang with about 2,500. Meanwhile, Pontian and Kulai show lower figures with roughly 1,500 and 1,000 victims respectively. Overall, the data clearly highlights that flood impacts are uneven and more severe in a certain area. In conclusion, this situation emphasizes the urgent need for stronger preparedness and more effective disaster management. So, if you want to know more about the data, you can search it from the RTM news portal. Next, I will explain it about the main variables, comparison, and also conclusions. So, firstly, about the two main variables, which are district in Johor. Johor Bahru, Kota Tinggi, Kluang, Pontian, and also Kulai, and the number of the flood victims measured in the people. Overall, the Johor Bahru recorded the highest number of flood of victims, while Kulai recorded the lowest. In comparison, Johor Bahru is clearly the most affected district. Kota Tinggi and Kluang also show relatively high numbers of victims, although they are still lower than a Johor Bahru. Meanwhile, Pontian, Kulai recorded fewer victims, indicating that these areas are less severely affected by a flooding. In conclusion, flooding in Johor mainly affects urban and low-lying areas such as Johor Bahru. This situation is influenced by heavy rainfall and higher tide conditions, which worsen flood severity and increase the number of victims. Furthermore, I will explain it about the pie charts. So, these pie charts is present the impact of floods in the Johor, divided into 4 key categories, which is social, economic, health, and also environmental impacts. From the chart, social impact records the highest percentage at 35%, followed by economic impact at 30%, healthy impact accounts for 20%, while environmental impact is the lowest as 50%. This is clearly show that social impact is the most significant effect of flooding compared to the other categories. This data I got it from the Malaysian Meteorological Department and NATMA Malaysians. Moreover, the data is presented in percentage to illustrate the impact of flooding in the Johor across 4 key areas, which is social, economic, health, and also environmentals. From the charts, the social impacts record at 35%, making it the highest. They show a major disruption to a daily life, including displacement and effect on communities. This is followed by economic impact at 30%, involving significant losses in property, business, and also infrastructure. Next, health impact stands at 20%, covering concerns such as the spread of disease and risk to a public well-being. Meanwhile, environmental impact records 50%, which is the lowest, but they still contribute to a long-term damage at ecosystems. In conclusion, social and economic impact are the most dominant. Therefore, stronger flood management and preventive measures are essential to reduce future impacts. Lastly, for the conclusions, the floods causes several hardships and widespread damage, disrupting a daily life, economic activities, and infrastructures. It clearly shows the urgent need for stronger mitigation strategies, better disaster response, and increased community awareness to reduce future impacts. That's all from us. Thank you.